I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome, good afternoon to the final, and welcome to the final meeting of the Legislative Committee for the Review and Oversight of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency and Marlette Lake Water System for the 2021-2022 interim. We have a work session on our agenda today, and we have members joining us in Carson City and virtually. I don't believe we have anyone in person in Las Vegas. I'd like to note that Senator Dondero Loop will be joining us virtually today as an alternate committee member. Thank you so much for being here. Committee members who are joining virtually, please be sure to keep your video on so we know we have a quorum, and be sure to mute your microphone when you are not speaking to minimize background noise. And for anyone on Zoom, just please remember that that chat feature is only for technical assistance, so please don't post anything on there. If you have follow-up items or questions, you can reach out to me or staff and we can take care of those. With that, Ms. Kramer, please call the roll.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Here.
Senator Scheibel.
Here.
Assemblywoman Krasner.
Here.
Assemblywoman Cohen.
Here.
Senator Settlemyre. Here. Chair Peters.
Here, thank you very much. I believe we have everyone here with the inclusion of Senator Dondero Loop. We have a quorum. During the interim meetings, typically have opportunities for 2 public comments, once at the beginning and once at the end of the meeting. Members of the public may provide testimony in a variety of ways, all of which are included on our agenda. To call in for public testimony, you can dial 669-900-6833. When prompted to provide the meeting ID, please enter 884-9374-5640 and press pound. Broadcast and production services staff will indicate that to you when it is your turn to speak. We ask the public comment be kept to 3 minutes so that everyone interested in speaking can be accommodated. Speakers are urged to avoid repetition of comments made by previous speakers. A ditto is just fine. If you would like to provide written comment, you can either submit that electronically or through mail or fax. Those are all listed on our agenda today. With that, we can start our first public comment period today. Please remember to clearly state and spell your name and limit comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in Carson City who is here for a public comment today? Yes, please come up to the front here, and then there is a white button to turn on the microphone. If you press that, you can go ahead and please remember to state your name and spell it for the record.
Hi, my name is Denise Davis, Denise Davis. I've been a full-time resident of Incline Village for 27 years. My community only recently learned of the work of this interim committee, and we're sorry to have missed participating earlier. I only have time to mention a few things discussed at your July 15th meeting. My home is located across the highway from the East Shore Trail parking lots. State Route 28 is one of the boundaries of my property. The daily commuter traffic begins before the sun rises. TARP public buses connect Incline only to the North Shore and Truckee, not Reno or Carson. Paid parking will continue to have unintended consequences. My neighborhood is now occupied with vehicles that choose not to park in the trail's paid parking lots, despite available spaces. Current regulations don't prohibit this. Technology will help with collection of fees, but fines, which change behavior, can only be issued by a human. The East Shore Trail parking lots have payment kiosks, but parking tickets have to be written by an attendant who is physically on site. A parking app can inform a driver where legal parking is available, but it has no ability to prevent illegal parking. Mobility hubs are parking lots, despite the lofty stated objectives. The East Shore Express moves people from parking lots in Incline Village to Sand Harbor because the parks lots are full. This was confirmed by Jim Lawrence at your July 15th meeting. There's little environmental improvement, busing people a couple of miles after they've all driven personal transportation into the basin. Many of us continue to be frustrated with the lack of effort to intercept traffic before it enters the Tahoe Basin. A variety of excuses have been offered through the years. At your previous meeting, many spoke of getting folks out of personal vehicles during their time in the basin, but there was no discussion of getting those people onto public transportation before entering the basin. Washoe County Commissioner Alexis Hill stated 42% of Tahoe visitation is day use from adjacent communities in Nevada and California, which equates to 4.2 to 6.3 million people whose behavior could most easily be changed by offering public transit from outside the basin. How quickly would traffic problems decrease and environmental quality improve if just half of the day visitors changed their habits by leaving their vehicles outside the basin? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, for your comments today. And we look forward to seeing you next interim, as this is a standing interim committee. So thank you again. Are there any other folks in Carson City? I'm not seeing any. Are there any folks in Las Vegas who would like to speak for public comment? Not seeing anybody in Las Vegas. BPS, is there anyone on the public comment line who would like to speak for public comment?
Thank you, Chair Peters. If you would like to offer public comment for today's meeting, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Once more, that is *9 to take your place in the queue to offer public comment for today's meeting. Thank you, Chair Peters. The line is open and working. However, there are no callers wishing to offer public comment at this time.
Sorry, my mic was not on. With that, I will go ahead and close our first public comment of the meeting, and we can move on to agenda item number 3, which is approval of minutes for the meeting on June 24th, 2022. Thank you. I have a motion from Senator Settlemyer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Krasner. Are there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. And I cannot see
Aye.
Senator Scheibel. Thank you so much. I believe that is that means. Thank you so much. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes with those in attendance. And go ahead and close out agenda item number 3. And I am so sorry, I did not see Assemblywoman Cohen in Las Vegas. Thank you for being there. I thought you would be online. Okay, agenda item number 4, approval meeting minutes from our meeting on July 15th, 2022. I have a motion from Senator Settlemyer. Is there a second? Thank you, Assemblywoman Cohen. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would go ahead and ask for all those in favor, please signify by saying aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And I see Senator Scheibel's hand raised. Any opposed, nay? The motion carries with all those in attendance today. All right, we'll go ahead and close out that agenda item and we'll go on to agenda item number 5, which is our work session. It contains so our work session document, you can find it either on our legislative website, but also in person in paper here. Our lovely staff has compiled the requests from folks. And we've all had the opportunity to look through these requests and items. We have several letters this year in support of funding for a variety of projects. We have a draft resolution and a bill request. I'm going to go ahead and ask that we take these out of order and take all of the letters together unless there's objection from please go ahead, Senator Settlemyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering if we could get a little bit more detail. I agree with the concept of a consent based on all of this work session document. I would like to pull number 3 if possible, ask for a little bit more clarity. On A3, I apologize.
Thank you so much. A3 does need a little bit of a revision based on a conversation that I have had with the requesters previously today. So maybe we can start there or let's go ahead and do all of the other letters unless there are questions from other committee members. Yes, Assemblywoman Cohen.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a question about 5 as well. If District Manager Hasty, I believe, might be up there, just some questions about transportation in Tahoe, if I could ask that. Or if anyone else from QTP is up there.
Yeah, we've got folks here in Carson City. Okay, any other ones we'd like to pull out of the letters?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
If you'd accept a motion to do pass A1, A2, A4, A6, and then that would also then include B8. That would be all the letters except for the 2 that have been requested to discuss and minus the drafting of the bill.
And the resolution. Is that the intent?
I
The
would-
number 2, A2. So.
If you want A2 off as well, that's fine too. I guess I'll modify my motion to just do the letters then, which would be A1, A4, A6, and B8 would be the motion.
I will entertain that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Was that Senator
Scheibel.
Scheibel? Or, Assemblywoman Cohen. Thank you so much. Second from Assemblywoman Cohen. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Nay. Motion passes with those in attendance. Okay, so that leaves us with hold on just a second. From here, I'm going to go ahead and take the letters and the questions on the letters first, and then we can move those two together. We will start with work session item A3. Senator Settlemyer, you had a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On 3 and 5, both had some concerns on it. If you
I'm
want to
sorry, I'm
have
gonna-
somebody come forward.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask real quick for our staff to read the revision that's been requested, because that might help clarify for you a little bit before we jump into questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Peters. Elisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. So the recommendation that is listed as A3 on the work session document has been revised after the printing of the work session document. So the modified version is for the committee to request the drafting of a letter to Governor Steve Sisolak expressing the committee's support for funding for each fiscal year of the 2023-2025 biennium for Nevada's portion of the funding strategy set forth in the Lake Tahoe Transportation Action Plan.
Thank you so much. This revision just removes the support of general fund appropriation explicitly from the letter, and would revise it to be supportive of funding from a variety of areas, whichever is appropriate for this biennium. Senator Settlemyer, please, with your questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. I looked at number 3, and I'm just kind of curious. I would like a little bit more detail. You know, the concept of $7 million is a pretty good amount of money. Is this going to be primarily used for projects? And I ask that because I really want to see projects. I definitely don't want to see any studies. And unfortunately, in the past, I've seen situations where, unfortunately, the government has spent $150,000 studying a $100,000 solution. And so I was wondering if anybody could speak to that particular aspect. And then on that also, if there's any discussion of where they plan on trying to get the local private dollars from, or is it going to be where, you know, an individual can come forward and say, listen, I have this environmental problem or concern and a road issue, and the private developer is willing to pony up that money to create, per se, the match money? I'm just kind of curious some of the details, if I could.
I have a finicky button over here. We have folks from the state and TRPA in Carson City who I would invite to respond to the question. We also, I believe, have Alexis Hill with Washoe County on the Zoom who may be able to answer the question regarding the local funding that at least Washoe County is ready to commit to. So please proceed if you would like. Oh, and a reminder, state your name for the record for us.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Jim Lawrence, Acting Director, Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. And thank you, Senator, for the question. Regarding the recommendation A3, which is the drafting of a letter supporting the 777 funding strategy, a couple of things that I will note is that the studies have been done. The 777 is to support the Lake Tahoe Transportation Action Plan. And you might recall from previous presentations that the two states, the two resource departments, we have been for the last 2 or 3 years basically holding a bi-state consultation on transportation issues that includes local governments, federal governments, private industry, environmental, the whole board. What was identified is a transportation action plan that gets to the heart of some of the transportation issues and congestion issues. It's complicated, but there's a variety of solutions and projects that need to be implemented, including what the speaker during public comment was talking about regarding, once you build a system in the basin, now we can start busing people into the basin because we have a system in place to move them around and not just, so you need a whole complex system to do that. One of the challenges is funding the Transportation Action Plan is there's about a $20 to $21 million annual gap. And so the bi-state consultation spent a lot of time researching different possible funding streams. Certainly the goal, the desire of many was to find one fungible stream that would work for everybody. The basin's really just too complicated at this point in time to do that. So what the group had consensus on was the same strategy that we used to fund the Environmental Improvement Program, where you allocate the shares amongst the federal government, state governments, local governments. Then with the desire of, it doesn't matter where you get the money, as long as folks are able to commit to it and put the projects on the board. And that was probably one of the reasons for the revision to this recommendation. For the state of Nevada, particularly for the first couple of years, because just like you were saying, we need projects. We can build infrastructure projects through bond dollars. So the state of Nevada can meet its funding share over the next few years using bond dollars in order to get the infrastructure and projects in place. That being said, and there's also some letters here, you still need folks to operate the system, and you still need to maintain the buses, and you still need to, there's still an operational component. But for the most part, Nevada can get there through the EIP bonds and also the Conserve Nevada bonds. So that's how the state is looking at it. The local governments also have had, and Julie Reagan here with TRPA could probably give a little bit more, shed a little more light on it. They are all moving forward with their different commitments. They certainly have been doing a lot of work in the transportation sector. They want to get credit for the work that they're doing. But they are doing it through different means. Placer County might have a different revenue stream than Douglas County, for instance. And so the bi-state consultation group didn't feel it was appropriate to tell local jurisdictions how they raised their money. It was just important that they did raise the necessary funds. So a little bit of a long answer there, Senator, but hopefully it got to your question.
Thank you for that. Staff is probably over here thinking that I made things way more complicated than it had to be because A2 would have gone over the resolution to support the action plan that was just described by our lovely interim director. Does that answer your questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It answers some of the questions. Again, I guess I was looking for more specifics, that we're going to spend about 80% of that money on actual projects versus 20% on, transportation type situations, improving the roads. And I say that because you're in a situation where, a colleague was telling me, about a situation in Tahoe where they went to a meeting and were going to use public transportation, but you couldn't find where the bus was running. You couldn't get it on time, this, that, and the other, and that creates problems. Where making sure people don't park on the side of the road by having other roads opened up may be more beneficial to my constituents that live up at Tahoe in that respect. So I'm kind of looking for that mixture or some discussion of how the fund, you spend 90% of it on, staffing buses that nobody's on, or are we going to spend, a majority of it on actual roads that might be able to improve some of the problems? And we've had such an increase in the number of cars in Tahoe, and a lot of it is due to COVID. That's just a reality. People realize they didn't want to be in the city. Can't blame them. That being said, we have seen the numbers up there in cars exceed levels. We never thought we'd have those levels again. And that's a complaint I'm getting from my constituents. So that's what I was just trying to figure out.
I think that is a fair point. And having sat on this this interim committee last interim, when we talked about SCR 8, which was really redirecting the efforts to find a comprehensive process that wasn't exclusionary, right? Because one of the conversations we had was a basin fee, which felt like maybe that would fix things down the road, but getting people into the basin and around the basin was really the crux of the issue for equity and for inclusion, making sure that our constituents can afford to go, right? And continue to play in one of our region's most beautiful play areas. So I really want to express my gratitude for the working group to come back together and come up with this plan, an actionable plan, including the funding options that gives everyone an opportunity to have skin in the game, but on their own terms, which I think is especially Nevada, one of our rallying calls, right? We need to be able to do things the way that works for us, not designated through potentially a legislative mandate or a way that doesn't work for the communities and allows for some flexibility. So I want to express my gratitude for that. Do you want to respond further to Senator Settlemyer? Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Peters and Senator Settlemyer. I'm Julie Reagan, the Deputy Director. Right now, the Acting Interim Executive Director, right at the moment, for the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. So I appreciate the question. This is an excellent question, and certainly Jim Lawrence may want to fill around this. Related to the action plan, there are capital projects, and that would include everything from bike trails on the SR State Route 28 corridor to parking satellite lots, to road improvements, to water quality improvements, to filter the runoff from the roads that link into an entire network of projects. And that's the beauty of the Transportation Action Plan, because we've identified high priority regional priorities, and we got consensus of that bi-state working group that then match up with local jurisdictions' capital priorities. And that work took some time to get to, where each jurisdiction could look at how their individual road overlay and other projects link up to the big system, even looking at things like water taxis, which we are inadequate, to be very honest, in Tahoe today to move people on land and water. So the full action plan has capital projects, but transit is included. A bright spot in this is the public-private partnership of microtransit that's been operating in Tart Connect on the North Shore, and this summer, the Lake Link, and we're seeing some really important work underway that shows people will use these other forms of transportation that then have to match up with the big infrastructure projects. So the action plan is designed to be flexible for each partner sector to achieve those goals, similar to how we structured the Tahoe total maximum daily load for water quality. Each jurisdiction made a plan. This is how we're going to reduce a certain amount of pollution into the lake. Each sector, whether it be the federal government, the two states, the local jurisdictions, and the private sector, can say, here's how we're going to come up with our share of $7 million. And so just to let this committee know, and Senator, Placer County Board of Supervisors has already passed a resolution supporting this approach. We're taking that to the City of South Lake Tahoe's council next week. And other jurisdictions are saying, we're going to commit to this because it doesn't lock in any one particular solution. El Dorado County in California, for example, has a transient occupancy tax, TOT, ballot initiative. They would contribute more to transit if that passes in November. So it's designing flexibility for each partner to come up with solutions. In Nevada, bonds may be the solution, but we're all in it together. And that was the purpose of the plan. But there will be a mix of transit, trails, and technology. and community corridors, which 28 is the featured corridor on the Nevada side, on this north end of the lake, to connect state line to state line with those different infrastructure investments. So I hope that shed a little more light. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I see Alexis Hill is also on the line if she would like to share a little bit about Washoe County.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alexis Hill, County Commissioner, for the record. Great questions, and I just wanted to represent what Washoe County and why we are bought into this plan. We actually plan to do a resolution of our support for the 777 plan. Like the rest of the local jurisdictions, Placer has already done their resolution of support, and we all are committed to doing that by the end of the year. But Washoe County already invests $400,000 into Incline Village and Crystal Bay on roadway improvements. In addition to that, we invested $100,000 to micro transit. And that was a public-private partnership, as was stated, and another $100,000 this year on what projects, CIP projects, public safety projects, multimodal projects can we do to invest in things like the public commenter, Ms. Davis, had suggested, parking plans and crosswalks and things of that nature. We'll be doing a transportation summit in October to discuss all the inputs we've been receiving from the community. We had online and in-person opportunities for folks to give their input. So that will be the other $400,000 that we'll be investing over the next 5 years into our communities. So we really like this because it gives us flexibility, and this is actually roadway investments into Incline Village and Crystal Bay. So thank you for the opportunity to give the Washoe County's point of view on this.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Hill. Appreciate you being here today. Are there any other questions? Okay. I would like to take a motion for both A2 and A3 since we went over the Transportation Action Plan a little bit. A2 is a request for drafting a resolution in support of that action plan, and A3 is a letter of support for the funding of that action plan for Nevada's portion of that action plan. I would entertain a motion for those two together.
So move, Madam Chair. I just really wish we could have a little bit more percentage based on making sure we do one-time projects and not put things into ongoing expenses that we may not have the money for in the future. That was where I was trying to go with the question, but unfortunately no one wanted to really go there. But I still think it's necessary and a worthwhile project to get done at the lake, so moved.
Thank you so much for that motion. Is there a second? I think I saw Assemblywoman Cohen raise her hand. Thank you. Second from Assemblywoman Cohen. Is there discussion on the additional discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I do not see Senator Dondero Loop or Senator Scheibel.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I've lost my camera, so I was trying to wait to go through this vote, and then I'll shut down and come back in.
Okay, thank you so much for the update. I would go ahead and we have a motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye, so I can hear you all.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, the motion passes with those in attendance. Thank you so much for that. All right, we have letter 5. And Assemblywoman Cohen had a question on A5, the letter expressing the committee's support for state general fund appropriation of $330,000 for each fiscal year of the biennium for an augmentation to TRPA's budget to support critical TTD operations. Assemblywoman Cohen, would you please with your question?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my question's about the buses. Back in July, I was really fascinated to hear about the free buses and the free transportation. And I wanted to know if that's going to be ongoing and if this part of this money is going to go to help supporting that program.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I am Carl Hasty, the district manager for the Tahoe Transportation District. And so to answer your question, indirectly, yes. This is more on the administrative side of the agency for the dollars. We are planning on continuing the no fare policy. That is a TRPA policy. This will help us indirectly, as I noted, in that right now, TTD does not have a dedicated kind of general fund revenue source. We operate largely off of formula, called formula funds, as well as discretionary dollars that we get through a competitive process. That leaves us on the administration side a little lean, and we've had to grow our own general fund over the years. This would help do this, and in turn, what it allows us to do is to take less from the transit operating dollars for the operation, which will then help maintain those no fare policies that you are speaking to and referencing. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Are there any other questions on work session agenda item A5? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this request for drafting a support letter.
So moved.
Thank you so much. And do I have a second?
Second, Senator Scheibel.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I think my first was Assemblywoman Cohen, and my second was Senator Scheibel, Vice Chair Scheibel. Great, fantastic. Thank you so much. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with those in attendance. Thank you so much. Okay, and our last agenda item is work session item B7, unless I'm missing. That's good. Yep. Okay, cool. I'm going to ask Ms. Keller to go over this agenda item in particular, since this is the drafting of a bill that we will be requesting turned into a BDR. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Peters. Elisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. So the final recommendation for the committee's consideration is to request the drafting of a bill authorizing the release of the next phase of general obligation bonds in an amount of $13 million to continue to implement Nevada's portion of the Lake Tahoe Environmental Improvement Program for the 23-25 biennium, and including authority for the expenditure on EIP projects of any interest accumulated on proceeds from bond issuances for the EIP program. And regarding the inclusion of authority for the expenditure of interest accumulated, I would note that interest accumulated on bond proceeds under Senate Bill 438 of 2011 currently cannot be used for the Lake Tahoe EIP, as previous legislation did not specifically include language related to interest. And according to Nevada's Division of State Lands, bond proceeds sold under SB 438 authorization totaling $12 million have generated approximately $176,000 in interest. However, State Lands is unable to access those funds. And I would note that Mr. Donahue, the Administrator of State Lands, is in the audience.
Thank you so much, Ms. Keller. Are there any questions on this particular item? I just want to mention that this is a typical bill for this committee. We typically pass bond obligations. This time around, we are just adding on this interest accumulation spending piece. Any questions on the motion or on this item before I entertain a motion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the requesting of the drafting of the bill as stated by Ms. Keller. I have a motion from Senator Settlemyer. Do I have a second?
Second, Senator Scheibel.
Thank you so much. Are there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Thank you so much. The motion passes with those present. That takes us through our work session document. Thank you so much for the questions and for the participation from folks in the room. I really appreciate y'all being here and all the work put in this session on catching us up with where you are. I'm looking forward to, and I think my colleague as well is looking forward to seeing how these plans work out I look forward to next summer and seeing a little bit more of Lake Tahoe than I got to see this summer. I'm going to go ahead and close that agenda item and move on to our agenda item number 6, which is our second public comment period. Is there anyone in Carson City who would like to come up for public comment? Seeing none, is there anyone in Las Vegas for public comment? I can't. Oh, great. Seeing none. BPS, is there anybody on the public comment line who would like to make public comment?
If you would like to make public comment for today's meeting, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once more, that is star 9. Thank you, Chair. The line is open and working. However, there are no callers to give public comment at this time.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and close out public comment, our final public comment of the interim. And before I make our adjournment statement, I just want to thank everybody for all of the work that you've put in over the last interim. I know we were hoping for your action plan in January when we first started meeting, but I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to really flesh out this program, get everybody on board and working together on making Tahoe really accessible to all. It's been awesome to watch it, having grown up in the region, and I just look forward to more and more work being done to make that area accessible and equitably accessible to all folks. I want to thank our wonderful staff. Thank you so much. I could not have done this without you. You helped me hold my brain between my ears. This interim, you guys are invaluable. Thank you so much for all your work. And lastly, but not leastly, members, thank you so much for participating. I know that this is a committee that's kind of exclusive to an area up here in northern Nevada, but the impact to our economy is significant. And without the work of TRPA, the work of our partner agencies, and the work of this committee, we wouldn't have, I don't think, as good a work going on in that region as we have had historically, but also today. So thank you all for participating. Really appreciate you, Vice Chair, and Assembly and Senate members. Is there any other discussion before I adjourn our meeting? Seeing none. Oh, please go ahead, Assemblywoman Cohen.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for all your work on this committee. It's really, it's exciting to see how much knowledge you have of the area and the issues, a knowledge of water issues, a knowledge of infrastructure, and it really made the committee very, it brought it home because of your love of the area, but it also was just really, really informative. So thank you for all your work this interim on this committee.
Thank you so much. I do enjoy geeking out on the science a little bit. Maybe I don't get enough of it in my day job anymore. Well, thank you. And with that, I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you all again.